You have arrived at the ET Newsroom with your host, Joanna Summerscales. Welcome. Be prepared. Be prepared.
Hello everyone, I'm here with Grant Cameron and this is the 20th of July 2019 and we are in Manchester and there's no rain at the moment, I think. Oh my god, yesterday it was unbelievable, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, even today it rained a little bit too on the way here. I was coming. I'm not used to from Canada. I'm not used to this rain. It's like
it was torrential. I mean,
wow.
Anyway, so listen, I want to just catch a few minutes with Grant before he has to go off and do some nice social things. So there's so much going on at the moment, and I really want Grant to fill us in because he's at the hub or the nexus of it. So Grant, I know that we've got a whole slew of things that are coming down the pipe, some of which you can talk about perhaps, and some of which you can't. But so starting from say the limits through to the alien autopsy through to, well, I mean, my god, there's a whole list of stuff. So where are you at the moment in the latest slew of information that you think is going to make a huge difference to not only the UFO community but the world at large?
Okay, I've always followed what I call the gradual disclosure of material. I had published 8 months before Tom DeLonge went public. I had him in my book called Managing Magic.
Okay, can we just say who Tom DeLonge is? Just for the record?
He's a rock star who got, he may have maybe as 20 sources inside the government who are providing him material. They've gone on to do a show on the History Channel called Unidentified, and that has been running for the last 6 weeks. They apparently have a second season that they're going to run.
Okay, and that's also known as the TTSA, isn't it? To the Stars.
To the Stars Academy. Okay. So I had identified the co-founder, Jim Semivan, the CIA guy before, and Tom DeLonge, and I said this was going to happen, that this has happened before in history. I've done this over and over again. It's sort of where I call it Managing Magic. So it's, you take the story, you manage the story, you put it out slowly through people, plausible deniability, all this kind of stuff. So they came with the New York Times story, which is in December of 2017. I immediately went to get a comment from the Ron Pandolfi, who's the big CIA guy, what's going on, and we started this game of, is Ron running this, who's running this operation, and I still maintain there's somebody inside the Pentagon who's pushing the button. This doesn't happen by accident.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it?
And they're saying no, but I'm saying yes. There's absolutely no doubt. So anyway, that goes, and then what happens, the big event that you sort of made a reference to, I'm at a conference last November at Paula Harris's conference in Brooklyn, Nevada, the Star Works USA conference, and James Rigney from Australia talks to Desta, my assistant, and said, we want to have a meeting with Grant. They couldn't get a hold of me. Then it's 11 o'clock. I'm ready to leave the hotel room, or ready to leave. We're going to Tucson, Arizona. I've got to leave at 11. We've got to make it there by 5. And he said, I got something I want to show you. I got a document. And I said, I really don't have time, James. I said, mail it to me. I'll take a look at it. He said, no, I really want to show it to you. And I said, but James, I got to go to Tucson. I got to leave. And he said, give me 10 minutes of your time. So I said, okay. So I sit down. He has a little iPad. He opens the iPad. He gives me this iPad. And I look at this document. Now, when I first saw it, I only read, and I was still at this time, I've only read maybe the first page of the document. I've never read the document, even though I've had the document for so long. I look at the first page of this document, and I see the name Oak Shannon on it. And I had received some notes that Oak Shannon had done at John Alexander's UFO working group in the 1980s that have been given to me, which are now going to be made public. I've never made them public for 15 years. So I knew who Oak Shannon was. And I'm going, Oak Shannon's name is on this. Nobody knows Oak Shannon. Oak Shannon is big, and it was Eric Davis notes. Now, Eric Davis was friends with Oak Shannon. I knew that because that's who provided me the documents, is Eric Davis. And I'm looking at this, and then I go down the first page, and I see MJ-12, confirmation of MJ-12. I've worked on the MJ-12 story since the 1980s, and I've said MJ-12 is real. The documents may not be real, but MJ-12 is a real group. And I was always very upset that people in the UFO community say, well, Grant's having a bad day, he's talking about MJ12 again, this is all counterintelligence, so he doesn't even realize. And when I saw this, I went, they knew. These guys knew and they didn't say anything. I was like, I just went, and I looked at James and I started immediately going, I gotta get this document. And I said, can you send me this document? And he goes, well, you know, I have a company and I don't know if I should send it over the internet. And I'm trying to talk to him. And then, so I've only seen the first page or two. And then I leave, I've got no document. So I'm thinking to myself after I leave, like, he sort of promised me the document, but he didn't promise me the document. I'm trying to think, I gotta get this document. How am I gonna get this document? So I contacted him, and what I said is I was gonna do, I wrote a book called Managing Magic, which is the idea that they're managing the story. I was gonna do Beyond Managing Magic, so I said to him, I got this book coming out in about February. And how about
that's this year?
last February.
Oh, okay.
So I said, how about if you give me the document and I'll put it in the back of the book. I won't say anything about it. I'll just put it in the back of the book and you may read it, Richard Dole may read it, somebody will read it and go, you see this document? Grab it back and just sort of drop it. And then he said, yeah, okay, and then we arranged how we would send me the document. He was most concerned about the security on the internet. So we told him how to send the document. And when he sent me the document, I thought it was like 2 pages, and then suddenly I looked at it, it was 15 pages. So a page of this document, I'm going, what did I get myself into? And I'm thinking, all the people in that document I knew these people. And I'm going, I can't drop this thing. I know these people. They've talked to me, they've been friends with me, whatever. And now I'm going to sort of cut their throats. And then I started going into this panic mode. Then he sent me the second document. So the first one was this Eric Davis notes where they're talking to Wilson, who was the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Wilson's saying it's all for real, crash saucers, we're cut out of the program, MJ12's for real, all this sort of stuff, contractors, the whole rumored story. And these are high-level people, so this is not like some crazy document. And when I looked at the document, the first question when I saw this and I realized this was a live document, I said, James, where did you get this? Because I'd seen documents like I've done. I did all the Truman documents I got, all the Roosevelt documents I got, the Carter documents, the Clinton documents, all Gary Goldwater's files, all the Canadian government, Wilbur Smith files, the Rockefeller documents. So I've seen a lot of documents. When I saw this is a different document. And then I said, where'd you get this from? And then he said they come from Edgar Mitchell's files. And I immediately knew, oh, that makes sense. Edgar Mitchell dies. These are his documents. And that's what happens is you and I as researchers, somebody swears you to confidentiality or something, you put it in your file, and you die. And then if someone finds your files, they go, oh, look at this. Joanna was talking to so-and-so. And that's how it comes out. So I knew that's how it worked. This is the 5th time this has happened to me. I actually have another one that I'm going to release is dealing with, I was given files from President Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, right.
An eyes-only, top-secret eyes-only study that was done for the president. The guy who was heading the study was going to write a manuscript on it. So he did the manuscript, he got sort of notes and stuff, and all the people that worked on the program, what they discovered, what Johnson was saying and stuff, and he dies. And there's this 300-page manuscript with all his security clearances
for a book.
For a book. And he dies before he does the book. So his daughter talks to a girl, and then she realizes on the document, she says, my friend's got these documents, and she sends me 100 pages of these documents. So that's the way it happens. Like somebody will die, and they're ready to do something, but they don't do it. So I had the first document, which was what they call the Wilson Notes. And
I mean, that's just such an amazing.
yeah, and I'm panicking. Like, what am I going to do with this document? And I'm thinking, well, take the names out. I'll, because I don't want to offend anybody and stuff like that. And then he sends me a second document. Suddenly, he's sending me the alien autopsy document. And he's not keen on it. He said, well, why did it take him 5 years to discuss it? Why didn't he discuss it? And I said, well, that's NIDS. That's how NIDS work. So these are NIDS documents.
Yes.
What it is Edgar Mitchell's on the NIDS board. And so when he dies, he's got the notes from his meetings at NIDS. So NIDS looked into cattle mutilations. They looked into black helicopters. They looked at Skinwalker Ranch. They had all these things. So they would bring in these consultants, like high-level military people, like Kit Green. And they would pay. Bigelow would pay these people as consultants. And they would come in and they'd take a subject. Like, I worked on the one they did was the Holloman Air Force Base stuff. So NIDS actually contacted me about the Holloman, because I had worked on the Holloman story. About, was there a film, did the president see it, and this sort of stuff. And they were asking me questions, so I knew they were working on this, and they were trying to find out, is this real, where's the film, and this sort of stuff. So they were just like you and I, except they're a little bit higher level than you and I, and they're trying to figure it out. So I knew that that's what they did. That's what I said to James. Well, they're just working on this. They work on different subjects. So the subject of that, they had meetings 6 times a year. So the subject of that one meeting was the alien autopsy. And all these people input what they've got, and that's where Kit Green on these emails actually says, I saw this film. This for real. And so James didn't really believe it. And I said, this is more important than the Wilson document. Most people think the Wilson document is more important. I said the alien autopsy document because it actually tells you what's going on. I mean, it's not just UFOs exist. It's like, we may have aliens. I mean, this is ET. This is the real deal. So I was more interested, but he said, well, maybe you don't put the UFO document, the alien autopsy. I said, no, I think you should put that document out too. So I was going to put them both in the book. Then I started to figure out what am I going to do. So I talked to a bunch of people. So what I said is, I can't do it, but I would talk to people. I'd say, Joanna, I got this document, and I can't leak it, I don't know what to do with it. And I talked to enough people, and one guy said, well, why don't you just put it on Reddit? And I said, they told me, you put this account, these false accounts and stuff like this. This is how you do it. And I said, but I don't want to put it on Reddit. I mean, if I want to drop it myself, I would just drop it. I don't need to put it on Reddit. That's the whole idea. I don't want to drop it. And he said, oh, okay, we'll take it from here. And there was a group of a couple of people. So I talked to enough people. So when it comes to Richard Dolan getting the document, I think I know which group, because they said at one point, something to the effect of, we'll take it from here. And so I decided, this is disclosure. At first, the first person that talked to me about the document was James Ian Dolly. And he said, can I have a copy of the document? And I said, no, you can't have a copy of the document. And that was in December. And so then I thought to myself, well, this is kind of counterproductive. It's supposed to be disclosure. So from then on, when someone said, can I see the document? I said, yeah, give me an email. I'll send you the document. And I was waiting for someone who wasn't compromised, because I was compromised. I knew who these people were. Somebody who didn't know who they were said, I don't give a shit. I'm going to put it on the internet. And that's what we wanted to do. So it went on the internet in April. And
but not by your hands.
By these, I think these people that I was talking to, these people who said, we'll take it from here. So they put it on, and then it was on there, and a couple of people, James E. and Dolly, phoned me, and I heard that Danny Silva had it, and people like this, and they couldn't leak it either, because they were talking to them as well. So they sat with it, and then it just died, the story died. So it was out there in April, and then in May,
it's funny how there's this sort of kind of hiatus around it. It's like there's energy generating in the bowels of it all as it begins to bubble up again.
And yet nothing happened. So James phoned me and he said, did you do the document? I said, I think it's on the internet. He said, well, what are you going to do now? And I said, nothing. It didn't go anywhere. It's not the time. If it was going to go, it would have gone. I'm not going to push it. I mean, somebody put it up there, and when the time is right, something will happen. And it wasn't until Richard had gotten when the second document came out, then Richard got a comment from that put off. He actually, I gave him credit that he actually went out and he contacted these people and said, well, what do you got to say? This is the document. I couldn't do that. So Richard did that, and then it went viral. As soon as Richard touched it, it went viral. And the story was all over the place. And then I was still quiet. I knew something was going to happen, so I pulled out of all lectures, all the interviews. I told people I'm not doing any interviews for the future, because I knew everybody's going to blame me for this. And I'm thinking, like, no matter what happens.
Your absence was noticed.
And like, I remember when the first phone call came, we got this document on Reddit, and I could feel my heart just, oh no, here it goes, And you see all the bad things. So I had a lawyer, I actually got a lawyer.
I know.
And I said to him, I said, do you think we could get sued for this? He said, well, they might try to sue you. And I'm thinking, what? They're going to sue me? What are you talking about? And he said, well, I'll defend you. Don't worry, I'll defend you. We'll go to court. And I said,
no.
And so that was the thing. And so when Richard went, then it was sort of open, and I sort of stayed in the background still. Richard contacted me and he said, because he thought I'd sent it to him. And he talked to Desta, and we assured him, no, we didn't send it. I knew it sent it. I'm pretty sure I knew he sent it. But he said, I need to talk to you. And I said, Richard, you're in the same boat I was in last November. Good luck. Bye. I'm not talking to you. And so I sort of cut Richard. But then Richard started getting attacked. It was all the skeptics started to come out, and people started to attack. They started to attack Richard. So then I thought, I actually caused this mess. So I said, I'm going to come to Richard's defense. And I came and said, okay. And then I started talking about the two documents, how they had come, how, you know, the whole thing. And then what happened was that people still didn't believe it. They thought it was a hoax. They thought it was, and that's why I put the third document. So the third document I took credit for. That was the email from Bob Bigelow to Edgar Mitchell. And the reason I put it up is I said, I'm just telling people, I'm directing you in the right direction. Edgar Mitchell, this is where these documents came from. Forget all the conspiracy theories of this and that. It came from Mitchell's file. I can't really tell you. And by producing this document, and there was actually another document that James wouldn't allow me to release, and it was a famous pilot who dies, and Edgar Mitchell sends a letter to his wife. And I said, well, let's put this one up too. That'll prove if we have this letter that Edgar Mitchell wrote to a private person, and he said, no, that's too confidential. So I've never released that. And I knew there was two other documents that he had, and I knew that he had 6 inches of documents. So he had gotten them from the source who had retrieved them from the Mitchell estate. They were going to throw them out, and this guy got them. And so James saw the documents. This guy didn't know they were UFOs, and he said, can I photocopy these? And he photocopied them. And then for a year, he tried to figure out who he's going to give them to. And that's when he contacted me, and that's when the whole thing started to unfold. So I came to Richard's sort of defense, and I said, this is where the documents are coming from, and still people had sort of dug themselves in a hole where they had said it was false, and also, and then they had to keep that thing going.
Well, we've had such a lot of that.
But I would say the way I would look at it is all documents from the government are fake. There are no real because they control the documents. They don't leak documents out. If they leak a document out, it's a controlled release, so you're going to have words changed, you're going to have all this kind of stuff. So it's plausible deniability. They can say it's a hoax.
Absolutely.
And the material is right. That's the original MJ-12 document was a hoax, but it told you there was MJ-12. And the reason we knew was because when the MJ-12 document came out in 1987, we went to the former president of Penn State University, Dr. Eric Walker, and we said, we've got this document, and it's talking about MJ-12, and he said, I've known of them for 40 years, leave it alone, there's nothing you can do, you're up against the windmills. And when he said, I've known of them for 40 years, that's 1947, he knew MJ-12 was real. He was confirming MJ-12 was real. So I always believed MJ-12, and that's when I saw the document. I said, they knew MJ-12 was real, and nobody would come to my defense. People were saying, you're crazy, whatever. So what's happened in the meantime is these documents have really started to sort of circulate and discussion taking place. And then my lawyer, what I did is I deflected everything to my lawyer. You got to talk to my lawyer. So he started getting phone calls, and Richard started getting phone calls. And now we've got a bunch of new material. And I can tell you what some of the material is because Melinda Leslie has released notes from Ed Houck. And this was the 1985 meetings in the think tank. It was John Alexander, the UFO Working Group, which is known as the Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group. I've had these documents for 15 years. And at one lecture, I actually released Advanced Physics Theoretical Working Group, just the front part of the document. And that's how people got to know it wasn't called the UFO Working Group. They changed the name to stop people from getting it through an FOIA. So I had leaked that little part of the document. But because Melinda Leslie had Ed Houck's notes, she put them on, and I think it was...
and can we say who Ed Houck is?
He was an aerospace engineer for Lockheed. And he was a high-level guy, and he used to do spoon-bending parties. So he was into the paranormal type stuff. And Melinda was good friends with him, so when he died, it was the same thing. When he died, the wife let Melinda go through his files, and she found these notes. So she showed them to me, because she's worked on the same thing. Same as Richard and I have watched these people called the Avery, the Invisible College, Cosmic Club, whatever you want to call it. And they're people that aren't bad guys. They're just guys who have at some point in their career run up against UFO phenomena. Maybe it was intelligence, military, or government. And they found somebody else who knows, and it's like, what do you know? I'll tell you what I know. And they're just at a higher level than you and I. So when
different resources.
So it was Keith Basterfield put the notes. This was only a couple weeks ago. He put Ed Houck's notes on, and then because I made the fact that Oak Shannon was the name that triggered me that this is for real, I said, okay, now I'm going to release, even though I wasn't supposed to release him until he died. I said, well, now it's all open, and there's 25 pages of new notes that are coming. This high-level, top-secret SCI people talking about, are we cut out? Is this thing going in a black hole? And these are these high-level guys talking about this, that they couldn't get anything, almost like the Wilson notes. So we're going to put that out. There's a couple of other things. I have the memo that Jacques Vallée gave me And I've put it out a couple times, but nobody paid any attention. Now people are going to pay attention. So what I'm doing is a book called Alien Documents.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go through all these documents through the years.
Yes.
And one's a channeling that the CIA did of an alien in 1959 at
With Swan.
Swan. So they gave me the handwritten copy of what they did.
Wow.
Again, it's plausible
Great.
deniability because it's a handwritten thing
Yeah.
by Robert Friend, who ran Blue Book.
Oh, yeah.
And he hand wrote the CIA memo out, and Jacques Vallée provided it to me. He said, "You got the story, here's the document." And I've showed it a few times, and it never got any traction, but now it's going to get some traction.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show these documents through history, all these different, I'm going to call it the alien documents.
It's so brilliant to do all of that.
And so we'll see what happens when it comes out. And I know with Richard and I, we've talked about, like, Richard's interacting with, like, Kit Green, Hal Puthoff, directly, and he's getting stuff, and we're working together that we're going to release some more material. And I'd say on both documents, whether it's the Wilson document or the alien autopsy document, there's new stuff coming.
Yeah.
I've been sworn, I'm on a non-disclosure agreement with the alien autopsy document, but I can tell you that story is going to blow up shortly.
All right. So can you say anything about that in regards, say, the denial of it being authentic by, say, Spiros Milaris? Is there anything to his story, or do we find that wanting in the truth veracity department, or can you not say?
Okay, what I would say, what I can say now, is that when I interviewed Santilli, I had heard that there was 1 minute and 18 seconds of film.
Yeah, I had.
And the idea was that they had taken the film and they had put it into the film. They had worked the film. That's how they knew what the body looked like. That's why so many people. There's 10 witnesses who said, "I saw that film."
Right.
So somebody was floating some sort of film that had this being with six fingers, six toes, and so they're saying, Milaris is saying, "I created that being. I gave it 6 fingers so it wouldn't look like a gray." And he's doing this sort of stuff. And no, I'm going to say that what the evidence is going to show is that the story about the 1 minute 18 seconds of film is true. That they do have the film. Now, I don't know why Santilli's pulling it. And when I had the interview with Santilli, what happened was the document came out, and Santilli was all excited when someone contacted him that finally had been vindicated.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying it's real.
And so the state from Dave Altman had worked on it, and he talked to Gary Shoefield. And Shoefield, he'd asked Shoefield, "Are you, now this document is out, are you guys willing to do an analysis of the film?
Yeah.
Because this is your chance."
Because they did a bit already, though, didn't they?
But it was on a leader. So they didn't have an alien on it. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're even going to need that. I said to Santilli, I said, "Here's the story." And everybody said, you know, Linda was wanting me to talk about this and that, her research. And I said, "I don't care. I've never seen the alien autopsy video. I'm not interested in it. I'm only interested in one thing. The story is there's 1 minute and 18 seconds of film."
Yeah.
So I said to Spiros, or I said to Ray Santilli, I said, "Okay, if you get it for analysis," he said, "Well, I think we've done that already," sort of backing away from having it analyzed. I said, "Okay, if you get it analyzed, then I will tell the people. But if you don't give the film, I will tell the people. I'm just going to tell what happened." So it's in your court. I don't care what you do.
Either way,
I'm just letting you know what's going to happen here. And I'm the one that controls the document that's supposed to be vindicating you. But I think even without the film, because people say he's not going to produce the film, and they're working on it, and so far they have not produced this film. But I think independently, there's been all I can say is there's been a forensic analysis. So when people say, "I've seen the film," and I say, "Well, what did you do with the film? What exactly did you do?" And if you do a forensic analysis, frame by frame, things change. That's all I can say. And so basically, I think it's going to get vindicated. I'm on a non-disclosure agreement with the people who are doing it. It's not my research, that's why I can't talk about it. But I was floored when I saw what they'd done.
Oh, really?
I was really floored. I went, wow.
So any idea when this information will be coming down the pipe?
I was shown a chapter, but I'd say we're probably talking a couple of months down the road.
All right. Okay,
And I agreed. I said, "Okay, I'll keep it. Can I get the first interview?" And he said, "Sure." So I said, "Fine, good." You know, it's their story. I don't want to break their story. And that may fall apart again. You know how these stories are. They go out there and then they take a big thing and then something falls apart. And so it may fall apart like everything else. So that's going to happen with the thing. And we may get the film. Like I did an interview with Phil Mantle today, and I asked him all the key questions. I said, you know, the things that bother me about it. And as I said, I haven't really studied it, but I said, there's like 10 people who saw this film. So how do you explain that? 10 people who saw.
So what did you say?
He said, well, it's almost like the crash test dummy thing. You know,
Yeah,
they sort of thought they saw something, but they didn't really know what they saw.
Right.
And when they saw
Yeah,
the
I
alien
understand.
autopsy, they said, yeah, that was probably what and they're sort of confusing what they saw with what was on the film.
Yeah.
And I'm
Okay.
going, no, because I don't know if you talked to Mike Maloney. When you look
No.
at Mike Maloney, the top photographer
No.
in Great Britain,
No.
and one thing Mantle did tell me, which was very interesting, is Maloney says I was shown it by Disney. That he had gone to Disney in 1978,
Oh, really?
and somebody on the Disney crew had shown it to him. And as soon as he said that, I was thinking it was Ward Kimball. And because Ward Kimball had been involved when Bob Ammenegger put a first
Oh, right,
documentary
okay.
out,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
the CIA had fronted this documentary to get out
Yes.
the Holden
Yeah,
Air Force
yeah, I
Base
know
story.
that, yeah.
He had been contacted by
Oh.
Ward Kimball from
Okay,
Disney,
yeah.
and Ward Kimball had been at the 1978 MUFON conference, and Ward Kimball had said that Disney had been offered a UFO documentary, and
Yes,
he'd
I've
done
heard
it,
that.
and they pulled the film at the end.
Yeah.
So Ward Kimball was fascinated. We knew he was fascinated with UFOs. So Mantle said, he said, it was that guy, it was one of those production guys that did that certain character. I said, Kimball? That's the guy. So I knew it was him. And he confirmed it. This was who showed them. So Kimball had this access. He was this fanatic about UFOs. And so it made sense to me. And when you hear Mike Maloney talking about it, he doesn't say, well, I think it was a film. He said, that I saw that film. He's absolutely defiant if you watch his interview. He said, and it had the live alien. It had more than the thing. There was a live one on the floor, and it was sort of moving. And he said, I know photography, and he was real. He was so emphatic. That's why I was saying to Mantle that these people are like the one guy said he saw it at the CIA. The Chinese said that they had been sent it. They asked for information and they've been sent it. So Mantle had all these people in his book. He documents all these people, and I just said, well, can all these people be wrong? It indicates that they're floating something. That the video is out there and it's plausible deniability. Nobody can actually prove that these people saw it. And they want you to tell the story. They want you to talk about this alien photo, but you can't verify it. So I asked him about that, and then the Kimball thing was kind of interesting. And then I asked him about in 2007. And he was probably talking about this. In 2007, he goes to Ray Santilli and he says, I want to see the film. And he said, okay, come to London and you meet in a restaurant. And he's got this leather bag, and he pulls this plastic thing with this film in there. And there's 20 slides. And he said, there you go, take a look. And he gets the magnifying glass and he goes outside and he's looking, and he said it was the same alien. And so I said, well, how do you explain that? And he said, well, he just cut film from Spiros' film. And it says there's always a counter thing. It's how do you nail it down? How do you actually?
I
know. So I said,
Spiros is so adamant and vehement that it's his. And John Humphreys did it.
Yeah.
I guess we have to go. Sorry, my darling.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you very much. Really.
The final thought is, within 6 months, you're going to see a lot of stuff.
That's already a lot of stuff. Oh my God.
Breaking in the next couple. Because I was talking to Richard, and Richard's working hard on it. He's got other people who saw the document and stuff. It's going to be big upcoming stuff. It's picking up momentum. So
fantastic.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, Manchester, and thank you, lady, for waiting for us for doing the interview. Oh.